Hello little dreamers and grown-ups too. Tonight's stories are for anyone who's had a big day. Tonight on Benny and the Bedtime Clouds, a shrew weaves dreams into fluffy clouds. In whispers, new clouds gently awaken. A raindrop's release blooms a flower's heart. In the gloaming, endings cradle new beginnings, and a stag song drifts, a melody of night. These stories were originally created for a little boy named Arthur, the storyteller's son, as part of a quiet, magical bedtime ritual. Now they're shared with families everywhere who want a moment of calm and wonder before sleep. Every story is told by a real person, not AI, because bedtime should feel human and personal and full of heart. If you enjoy these gentle stories, please consider tapping like and subscribe. It helps this little channel grow, and we'll be right here every night. Ready? Great. But before we start, let's do our sleepy breaths. Smell the strawberries, blow the dandelions. There, that's better. Now we're ready for the story. Benny and the Cloud Knitter. Benny floated on his personal cloud, a soft, pillowy haven high above the world. The sun was beginning to dip, painting the sky in hues of peach and lavender. As he gazed around, he noticed some clouds looking thin and wispy, like a well-loved blanket fraying at the edges. Curiosity tugged at him, and he drifted toward a large, sleepy-looking cloud. There, he found Elmsworth, a tiny shrew with a fluffy tail, wearing a vest made of woven grass. His eyes sparkled with kindness as he worked diligently, his tiny paws moving with purpose. Pip, Benny's magical mouse friend, was perched on a puff nearby, gently spinning stray wisps of cloud into fine thread. "Hello, Benny," Elmsworth chirped, his voice as soft as a whispering breeze. "I'm the Cloud Knitter. After a long day of carrying sunbeams and playing with the wind, clouds can become unraveled. It's my job to mend them." Benny watched in awe as Elmsworth pulled out a pair of long, smooth needles carved from dandelion stems. With a gentle hum, he began to weave the loose, tired strands on a droopy cloud. Pip darted between stitches, adding a sprinkle of starlight to help the fabric hold its shape. Each loop and twist brought the cloud back to life, transforming it from a sagging shape into a perfectly round, billowy wonder. As Elmsworth worked, Benny felt a profound sense of peace drift through him. The very fabric of the sky was being tended to with such care. The air was filled with the sweet scent of cotton candy and the soft sound of humming, like a breeze playing through chimes. Nestling into his own cloud, Benny felt how perfectly woven and gentle it was. The world around him softened, and he closed his eyes, surrendering to the hush of the sky. The clouds above and below held him with the quiet strength of a lullaby, and with Pip curling up beside him, he drifted into a deep and dreamy sleep, knowing the sky was in safe hands. The end. Benny and the Cumulus Nursery. Benny followed a trail of tiny, pearlescent cloud wisps that giggled with a faint, bell-like sound. The wisps danced playfully, leading him higher than he had ever gone before. As he ascended, he found himself at a shimmering curtain of mist. With a gentle push, he passed through and discovered the Cumulus Nursery. Inside, a vast, warm grotto welcomed him, filled with the softest light. Here, new clouds were born, drifting and bobbing like unformed dreams. Some were no bigger than teacups, while others stretched long and feathery, each one a promise of sky yet to come. The air smelled of fresh rain and clean linen, and a soft, ambient humming floated through the space. The sound of clouds imagining themselves into being. Pip scampered beside Benny, her tiny paws leaving sparkles on the floor of mist. She leapt into the air, gently guiding a wayward cloudlet back into place with a swirl of her glowing tail. The cloudlings shimmered in delight, bumping gently against her like curious bubbles. Benny wandered slowly, enchanted. The cloudlets gathered around him, warm and slightly damp, brushing against his fur like soft whispers. He didn't need to do anything but breathe and be present, held in the stillness of a place where everything was becoming. Eventually, he found a large, steady mother cloud that felt like lying inside a summer thought. He curled up, and the tiniest cloudlets clustered around him, their gentle humming creating a lullaby without words. Pip curled up nearby, resting her head on a puff of mist. Benny let his thoughts drift, like the clouds around him. The nursery hummed on, quiet and timeless, as he slipped into a sleep as soft as air. The end. Benny and the Tale of the Cloud. Benny sat on a mossy log, watching the fog roll over in the valley. The air was thick with mystery when a wise, silver-furred old otter named Maris glided out of the mist and settled beside him. Her eyes held the colour of twilight, and she sensed the quiet hush surrounding Benny. Pip nestled beside him, her tiny ears twitching as the mist swirled gently past. She held a smooth pebble that shimmered faintly, catching the mood of the moment. "The fog reminds me of a tale," Maris said, her voice flowing like water over smooth stones. "Once there was a small cloud who carried the most beautiful raindrop in the whole sky." As she began her story, Benny listened intently. Maris spoke of the cloud who cherished a single, perfect raindrop that shimmered with all the colours of a rainbow. The cloud loved it so much that it refused to let it go, even when all the other raindrops had fallen to nourish the earth. But as time passed, the cloud grew heavy and slow, its heart tangled with worry. One day, floating over a field where a tiny flower was wilting, the cloud understood. It gently released its precious raindrop, which landed perfectly, allowing the flower to bloom into a radiant blossom. Its petals shimmering with every hue the raindrop once held. The cloud, now light and clear, felt more joy in the giving than it ever had in holding on. Benny thought quietly about the story, the soft truth of it settling inside him. Letting go, he realised, could sometimes be the most beautiful thing of all. As he leaned back against the log, the fog curled gently through the trees, and Maris rested her head on her paws. Pip lay curled beside him, the pebble in her arms now glowing faintly like a memory. Benny's thoughts floated like mist, and sleep found him there, quiet and full of peace. The end. Benny and the Gloaming. Benny wandered into a secluded dell just as the last silver of sun dipped beneath the horizon. The air began to fill with a slow, drifting mist, the colour of deep violet and rose gold. It was a visible kind of hush, a magical moment known as the Gloaming. Pip trotted beside him, her whiskers glinting in the fading light. She carried a tiny thimble made of quartz, catching drops of the mist as they danced through the air, giggling softly at its shimmer. Curious, Benny reached out to cup the violet mist in his paws. It twirled around him, carrying the final colours of the day, soft warmth and stillness woven together. As he padded deeper into the dell, the mist softened everything it touched. The edges of the leaves, the texture of bark, the shape of the stones. The whole world seemed to take a deep breath and pause. In this tranquil space, Benny discovered that endings weren't sad. They were part of the rhythm. The gloaming wasn't goodbye, but a gentle settling. The day, it seemed, was simply curling up for a rest. He found a bed of moss, glowing faintly with the last light, and lay down, Pip nestling beside him beneath a fern leaf. The mist hovered gently above them, not heavy, not light, just enough to hush the world to sleep. As Benny closed his eyes, the dell faded into stillness. The gloaming held him in its calm, like a secret shared between the day and the night. The end. Benny and the Stag's Song. From his cloud cottage, Benny heard a sound he'd never encountered before. It was the warm, woody voice of a finger-picked guitar, a melody slow and thoughtful, like sunlight drifting through tree branches. Intrigued, he followed the soft notes along a forest path carpeted in pine needles. The moon hung high, casting a silvery glow, and the music made the tree shadows sway as if they too were listening. Pip flitted ahead, her tail glowing faintly as she traced the rhythm in the air, shaping it into tiny stars that shimmered briefly before vanishing. The path opened into a moonlit clearing. There, seated upon a moss-covered log, was a quiet, regal stag. Its antlers shimmered with starlight, and in its hooves it held a pale, willow-wood guitar, simple, beautiful, and worn with love. The stag was lost in the music, unaware of its audience. The melody drifted like a story with no words, one that smelled of pine, tasted of quiet earth, and moved like time itself. It was the song of the forest, ancient, soothing, and slow as the turning of stars. Benny felt the music move through him like water warmed by sun. He found a soft patch of moss, and Pip curled beside him, her tiny chest rising and falling in time with the notes. They listened together, breathing in the stillness. As the final phrase faded into the night, the stag gave a gentle nod toward the sleeping friends, then turned and melted back into the trees. The clearing stayed quiet. Benny and Pip slept soundly, the echo of the melody resting in the hush of the leaves. The end. Good night, little dreamers.